It's almost like working with an agent. It's like working with like a tailor. They're like tailoring the suit to fit exactly what you need versus almost online's like
it's a guessing
too baggy or too,
too tight.
Exactly.
Getting something off the rack versus tailored.
I think when you're spending money on insurance, you want it to be completely tailored to what your needs are. So
yes.
That's why it's important.
You're listening to the Isn't That Rich podcast, and we're your hosts, Jill Franks
and Ashley McVicker. As young females in the banking industry, we love simplifying the confusing yet everyday questions you have about money.
Like, how do I get my finances in order?
Where is my money really going?
How do I invest for my future?
How do I make my money work for me?
Can I really afford to buy that new home?
These are the questions that keep us up at night. And the truth is, no one was born knowing how to handle their finances.
And chances are, walking into a bank to ask for help seems intimidating.
Whether you're a single person in your early 20s saving for your first home,
or you're an empty nester wondering what to do with that extra spending cash,
this is the podcast for you.
Welcome back to another episode of the Isn't That Rich podcast. I'm your host, Jill Franks, and I'm here with a special co-host today, Jared Gravatt, who is subbing in for the lovely Ashley McVicker. Welcome, Jared.
Big shoes to fill, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. But today we're talking about understanding your insurance coverage, which neither of us really are knowledgeable in that.
Yeah. We're definitely like sponges, like so much we need to learn and absorb and understand, so I'm excited.
For sure. So, as you probably have known, Farmer State Bank purchased the other half of the Williams and Associates Insurance Agency last year, which is now Farmer State Bank Insurance, FSB Insurance.
We've been doing the marketing for it recently, and so it's been really great kind of learning kind of the ins and outs of how an insurance company works, and it's been awesome.
Yeah, and today we're having our first guest on from the insurance agency. Yeah. And so Lara Leip has been in the insurance industry for a few years now, since 2018. She specializes in personal lines such as home and auto insurance, but her passion really lies in educating people about their insurance policies. So getting what they're exactly paying for and why their policy is set up the way that it is. So I'm excited to have her on.
Same.
So Lara's road to the insurance industry isn't what you imagine it would be. She was originally a pastry chef, which is super cool. She still enjoys baking for her friends and family, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to become her best friend after this episode. But she's been with FSB Insurance since March of this year, and we're so excited to have her on. She has 4 children, she's married, and she resides here in Southern Illinois. So without further ado, welcome, Lara.
Thank you. Like she said, my name is Lara Leip. I actually moved back to Illinois when my mom got sick. So there's really not a place to become a pastry chef in this area and make a living to where I can take care of the kids and pay my bills.
Well, with 4 children,
yes,
that's a lot to
it is a lot
to feed. Yeah.
Yes. So I was managing a restaurant and it sold. So the staff was let go and they were going to start from scratch. And during that time I was unemployed and I was looking for a job, and somebody reached out to me through Aflac. And that's when I started taking the testing and learning about insurance. And I realized I was underinsured. I was not properly covered. A lot of people think that when you have comp and collision on your policy that you have full coverage just because your car is covered. You're actually only covered to your policy limits. So those numbers next to your coverage levels actually mean more than what you think.
See, I would have no idea any of that. Same. So I'm already fascinated, what? Blowing my mind right now. So let's get right into it because, that's a big bite of information right there. You specialize in home and auto policies. Yes. And what you were just talking about was all about your car.
That was about my auto.
Okay. Yes. So let's talk more about auto insurance policies. Let's get right into it. So when you purchase auto insurance, what are you getting? And how do you know what you're getting?
So your agent should actually help you. A lot of people go online, they try to find the cheapest coverage, they sign up online, but if you don't know what those limits mean, then you're not sure what you're covered for. So it's always best to work with an agent. You need to find an honest agent who is going to compare your other quotes you get from other companies. Every company has different quoting rates, and some may be higher, some may be lower. There's different coverages that you can add on to it, but the basic policy will be bodily injury, property damage, uninsured, underinsured insurance, and then you have your comp and collision is your basic auto policy.
So that's like a package you get with your insurance. Yes. Okay.
So
that makes sense.
There's extras you can add on as far as rental car coverage. You get a certain amount per day. That does not cover you if you just go out and rent a car. It covers you if you're in an accident and you need coverage while your car is getting fixed. And then towing and roadside assistance, things like that. Those are extras you can add. I always encourage it.
So this is what you can add on to your original
That's what you can add
package.
onto it.
Okay.
But the original package is what everybody needs to really learn what those numbers mean, is the state of Illinois actually only requires what we call 2550 coverage.
Okay.
That's $25,000 per person for bodily injury and $50,000 per accident. If there's 3 people in the car, you still only have $50,000 worth of coverage. If you're at fault and you hit somebody else and 3 people go to the hospital, you only have $50,000 coverage on that policy.
Between all 3 of you.
Between all 3 of them.
Okay.
So let's think about how much an ambulance ride costs right now, or if anybody needs to be flown out.
Right.
They have to call in a chopper.
Helicopter.
Yeah.
So what I just sat down, so this year it was kind of cool with Farmer State Bank. They had an actual, evacu flight, or what was it? They had an insurance agency, or they provided that they offered that to us. And so I signed up for the first time.
Me too.
For that too, because it's so cheap, but it is so worth it. Think about how often there's accidents on Highway 57.
Oh, yes.
I mean, it's such a busy road, and you see helicopters flying in all the time. Like, if you're not covered for that and you're in an accident, man, you'd be sorry.
You can't afford to not have proper coverage. I mean, that's what I'm learning about insurance is, if you're involved in a situation, they happen all the time. If you're not properly covered, it's going to cost a lot of money. So it's important to know your stuff.
Yeah. So another part of that is property damage. The lowest you can go on any general policy in Illinois is $20,000. But we see on the news where people lose control of their vehicle and they run into somebody's house or storefront. You're only covered for $20,000 of that. So that property owner has the right to hire a lawyer and come after you and your assets personally for anything over $20,000.
Okay, so I'm driving my car. You're talking about this is still my auto. So I'm driving my car. I crash into a ditch. I hit a tree and I take down a fence and it knocks the tree down and it hits the house.
Yep.
And so I'm only covered
for what your limits say on your policy.
So with that minimum, which is about $20,000, you said I would only cover $20,000. And we all know windows, just windows alone, man, are $10,000 a piece at this point, right? So, wow.
Yes. So you always want to make sure that you up those limits. So it's like I tell a lot of people, they're like, well, what's my chances of hitting a house? Well, they're very slim, but your chances of getting into an actual auto accident are higher. If you hit brand new Jeep Wagoneer, their average is $105,000 brand new. So if you hit a Jeep Wagoneer and total it, you are only covered for what your policy deck page actually says. They can come after you for any extra.
Wow. So that's just the basic coverage.
Yes.
So then you can add on from there.
Yes. So medical payments, anything that's listed medical is for you. So everything else that I have already talked about, which is property damage, bodily injury, things like that, that is for passengers in your vehicle or somebody in the other vehicle. So medical is actually for you yourself as the driver. A lot of people will decline it or only get $2,000. I suggest a minimum of $10,000.
Ooh, that's good information to know. So you suggest on a policy a minimum of $10,000.
Yes.
For yourself, for medical.
Yourself.
Just for medical. Okay.
So I actually had a friend who was on a motorcycle and they were in an accident. And she had $25,000 worth of coverage. Well, the policy was $25,000 worth of coverage for bodily injury because she was the passenger. Her medical bills were close to $50,000 after that accident. So her insurance had to actually take over. Now, it was a married couple, so they couldn't go after each other. But if it was just a friend, then their insurance company would actually sue the driver's insurance company, or the individual, the passenger, could go after the driver themselves. So that's why it's really important to pay attention to what those coverages are, especially on motorcycles, because those, you're usually injured more than just a broken bone or two.
Right.
So that costs more. And then, so extra, as far as medical, for yourself, I suggest a minimum of $10,000. That's at least the first few hours in the ER. Anything over that, your personal insurance will probably take over. As far as rental car coverage, so if your car breaks down, you're not covered under rental car for that.
So even if my rental car breaks down?
If your rental car breaks down, even though you have roadside on your vehicle, I suggest buying the insurance that the rental agency offers. Because
you do?
That's good to
yes.
know.
Okay, so explain this. I guess those are two different things we're talking
Yes.
about. Okay, one is if your car breaks down and you need to rent a vehicle, that is what the insurance covers. And then I was talking about something else, which is when I rent a car on a vacation or something.
If your car breaks down, it's not, you don't get the rental car coverage on your policy. You do if you're in an accident.
Okay.
So an average cost to rent a car in Southern Illinois is around $45 a day for the small cars. So you want to make sure you have at least $40 to $50 worth of coverage on your rental per day. Your max is usually around 30 days. Anything over that, you're paying out of pocket. So,
And that's even with an accident.
that's with an accident only. So if your car breaks down, you have to pay out of pocket or borrow a car from somebody else. If you go to rent a car on vacation or just renting a car in general, I highly suggest getting their insurance, because if you're in an accident with their vehicle, then their insurance takes care of it. You can pretty much walk in, hand them the keys, fill out the accident report. Their insurance takes care of it. It's not a claim on your policy unless there's something called subrogation, which is something we can get into on another day.
Episode,
yeah. So, but that insurance is worth it. Then it's, if the car breaks down, you have the rental car company's roadside that goes to. So therefore, there's not a claim on your personal policy.
So your personal policy won't go up, essentially, because of this insurance claim. Okay, that makes sense. That's good to know. Yeah. Because I was always told, don't do the rental insurance.
Yes.
Same.
Got it. Okay.
So if you're, trying to count your pennies, you don't have to. Your policy, most policies will cover it. You always want to check with your insurance carrier first. Not all of them do. So just make sure that it does go over to a rental car. But if you have the extra, however much it costs, I don't know.
I mean, I think it's usually like around $40. I have a feeling that's kind of what it is whenever I've done it for my weekend vacations or whatever when I need a vehicle. So
yeah, so I mean, it's worth it to not have those claims or anything like that come back on your personal policy.
for sure. Okay, this is something I'm interested in, is how long do tickets? So if I get a speeding ticket, or I am a troublemaker driver, just for I'm on my phone and I text, I'm sorry, and I get caught for it. Like, how long do
we're asking
tickets
for a
like
friend.
that? Yeah, not me, but Jared.
Yeah. How long
Ashley,
do
so
tickets stay on personal record?
Yeah. And how does it affect your insurance?
Yeah.
So depending on the ticket itself will actually affect your insurance in different ways.
Okay.
So a speeding ticket for 5 miles over usually just counts as a minor ticket. It's a minor traffic violation. If you're 15 miles or over, that's considered excess speeding.
Okay.
So that's going to come against you even harder. Your rates are going to go up. It will be affected. And during your renewal process, they'll look and see if you've had however many you've had in the past, usually 5 years. Some companies only do about 3. Progressive actually does 5 calendar years. So even though it's 5 years to the date, it's going to stay on for the rest of that
So
year.
say if we got a ticket right now in May, it would stay 5 years to May and then another 6 months, 7 months.
Until the end of the year.
Ooh, okay.
It's a long time.
So it is a long time. And then you have some companies that only do 3 years. So it all depends, and that's what your agent should actually be looking for. So if you have a ticket that's 4.5 years old, then they know what companies that only go to 3 years. So you can actually just quote and still see which one's cheaper.
Oh, that's a good tip.
Yeah.
So if you do have a ticket on your record and it's been 3 years and your policy's up for renewal,
Yes.
that's a good thing to stay in contact with your agent about. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise you'd be quoting another 5 year, and heck, it could be taken off.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
It's another reason like you're saving money by going through an agent.
Rather than
Yes.
just online. Yeah.
And if you work with an agent who has access to quoting you with multiple different companies, then every time your renewal comes up, you should be asking for a re-rate. So,
Okay, so say that again. So every time your renewal comes up, you should be asking for a what?
a re-rate.
A re-rate.
Yeah, to be re-rated. So what we'll do is we'll take all your information, gather anything that's new, make sure all the information's correct, like nobody else has moved into your house and you don't have another driver with access to your vehicles, or make sure the annual mileage is still the same. So if you're driving a lot, we need to put that on there. But if you're only driving less than 8,000 miles a year on your vehicle, we need to put that too, because that's a discount.
Oh,
So,
cool.
yeah. So,
Well, that's something I didn't think of either. So say your daughter is turning 16 and now she's driving. That's something I didn't think
Yeah.
about, is adding them to the insurance for just the car. So how does that work? Do you have to, every time you add somebody to your insurance, do you have to do a whole re-rate again, or how does that work?
So sometimes you can just add them to the policy, but trust me, I know I have an 18 and 16-year-old, so
I was gonna say, with those four
Yeah.
or 4 kids, yeah.
so thankfully 2 are still quite a ways away, but we do have 2 teenagers and they're expensive. You're talking an average of $80 to $120 a month just to add a teenager to your policy.
Ooh,
So yes,
those young drivers without
young
experience.
drivers, yes. Boys are typically higher than girls, but I've seen an increase with girls being a little bit more, and I think it has to do with social media.
Really?
That's just a personal,
Yeah,
Like,
that's a personal take, but
yes. So girls are more apt to being on their phone. As soon as that text message goes off, they want to check it. And boys can just kind of leave it to the side for a little bit. Accidents have been on the rise with young female drivers, and it's usually because of a cell phone in your hand.
So why is like a ticket with the cell phone usage so high?
It's distracted driving. So you are not paying attention to your surroundings. You're not paying attention to the heavy machine that you have around you.
Because that's what it is.
Yeah.
you're driving heavy machinery.
Yes. So, especially like through a construction zone plus a cell phone ticket, like at the same time, you might as well just kiss your good rates goodbye, because it's going to be 5 years or more before you see any good rates.
In a construction zone.
Yeah, construction zone speeding, cell phone tickets, excess of 15 to 20 miles over speeding limits. Those are probably the 3 worst, besides for like DUIs, things like that, which are obvious that they're,
Bad.
yeah. So
The text message can wait.
text can wait.
Don't text and drive.
Yes, if it's important, like if you're waiting on something, pull over. Like get way off the road, find the nearest exit, side road, pull into a gas station parking lot. Do not use the shoulder. That's for emergency vehicles only. Or if you have something wrong with your car, it's not worth it to pull your car over for a text message.
Well, and it's so dangerous. I
Yes.
mean, you've seen those videos of people on the side of the road getting hit by others, and
Yes.
distracted drivers, and scary. So yeah, just get off,
Yes.
That's
exit.
good.
And
So
interesting.
claims are the same thing as tickets. The higher the claim, the dollar amount on the claim is how it's kind of going to affect you and the type of claim. So, I mean, if you drive into somebody's house, that's obviously going to count against you more than just rear-ending somebody at a stoplight. and hitting a deer, usually the first comp claim, they won't even consider it because of where we live. I mean, our chances of hitting a wild animal on the road are pretty high.
Yeah. So a comp claim, because I don't know what that means.
Okay. So a comp claim is anything that would be like hitting a deer or turkey, which happens a lot. A hailstorm, your car is damaged. A tree falls on it in a windstorm, stuff like that. That would all follow under the comp or the comprehensive coverage.
Okay.
Collision is basically just that. You hit anything, a moving object. So we've actually had somebody who was driving on Highway 13 and the vehicle in front of them just bought a brand new dishwasher from Lowe's and they didn't strap it down.
Oh.
It fell out of the back of the car. No. This client was in the middle lane with 2 cars next to him, and he could not get out of the way. And he hit a dishwasher that was just sitting in the middle of the road. But because it fell out of a moving vehicle, that was considered a collision.
Okay.
Interesting.
So I've had it before where a rock flew up from a truck driving and hit my windshields. And I remember my insurance agent at the time said, well, did you get the driver's or the license plate from the truck? And I didn't even think to get the license plate from the truck as I'm moving. But that just goes to show you when you're just paying attention.
Yes.
So what happened to that driver when that hit the dishwasher? So it was a collision.
It was a collision. So because we didn't know who the driver was at first, because they were, it was nighttime. It's hard to read driver's or license plates. You're also not thinking about getting a license plate number when you're trying to avoid hitting 2 other vehicles and a large box in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
So it totaled the vehicle out. We ended up writing a claim on his policy, which then we did find out who the driver was. So we were able to get that back for our client through what I said subrogation, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah.
So that's another good thing is to making sure that your insurance company is fighting for you to get that claim off of your policy and to the person actually responsible. So what this client did is he actually went and picked the box up off the side of the road after it was safe to get out. And he got the information off the box, took it to Lowe's and tried to figure out who actually purchased that.
Wow.
So as he was in Lowe's, they did not give him the information. The guy walked in and was like, well, I need to buy a new dishwasher. So,
well, that's fate.
Yes, it was fate. So he was taken care of. It does take a while, but that claim is now off his record.
Wow.
As far as not his fault. So any information you can get from the accident is going to help you.
That's good to know.
That is good to know.
Because I did the same thing for that rock. I didn't know. And I told my insurance agents, I was driving a long way to Florida and there was no way that I was going to find that driver again. But anyway.
Yeah, so I wouldn't think about getting a driver's, a license plate for something like that. But
so you said when you have this coverage and your car breaks down, so my engine blows up, there's no coverage on that. No.
Mechanical coverage, that's really not a thing on auto insurance. So the way to, just keep up regular maintenance on your vehicle. Obviously, vehicles are not made to last forever, but one of the most common questions I have is my transmission went out. Do I have coverage for that? And no, unfortunately you don't. That's under mechanical. So anything mechanical that goes wrong with your vehicle is not covered by your auto insurance coverage.
Wow.
So, but you could at least have it towed. If you have roadside assistance or towing on your policy, you at least have that coverage to get it to a shop.
Okay, so I didn't know that either. I thought that repair would have some coverage, so no. I'm learning so much.
The only time that is covered is if you were in an accident and that exact piece, let's say you had a brand new radiator just replaced from an accident, so you've already had that claim on your file, and then that radiator blew, then it would go back towards that original claim. And usually that may go on warranty for the part itself.
Wow.
So
My
I
goodness.
had no idea.
Well, that's good to know. But the tow truck may be under your coverage. So at least some of that can be. So I shouldn't hesitate to get a tow truck then when I need to be towed off the side of the road.
Towing.
Yeah. Well, that's important.
So I have so so many people right now are online shopping for insurance. Like it's mentally, it's like just seems easier, more affordable. I don't think people understand, the need for having an insurance agent. So maybe explain a little bit of like why this is important and why we should maybe avoid that kind of online insurance shopping.
Well, I personally tell everybody it's smart to shop around a minimum of every 2 years. So minimum of every 2 years, have your agent run numbers with other companies. Even like we have people who have been with a certain company for 20 years because it's easier. It's easier to just stay there. They don't want to mess with it. I understand. I did the same thing. I went on my parents' policy, and then when I moved out of their house, I just stayed with the same agent and just stayed there and left it alone. Then when I had to move, I moved to Missouri, so I had to switch insurance companies because I moved out of state. So that's when I went online myself, and I got a policy through Progressive, and I didn't know what medical and everything else was. So I declined it, and I'm like, oh, well, that increases it like $6 a month. Well, I don't need that. I have insurance. I'm fine. I have medical insurance. I'm okay.
Yeah.
Well, I hit a deer, and it hurt pretty bad, and I had to go to the hospital and get checked out for my shoulder. And my insurance did not have medical on there. Now, if I had an agent who had told me, hey, you really need this and this is why, then I would have known to keep that on. The extra few dollars a month would have totally been worth it. So there's pros and cons to shopping online. Online, you can probably find a really good deal. You can check different companies. The cons are you don't know what you're getting. Somebody like Progressive, they're a good company. That's fine. But these new companies that are popping up on social media saying you can get full coverage insurance for $36 a month, I'm sorry, no, you can't. You can be the perfect driver for the past 40 years, and there is no way you're getting 2 cars on an auto policy with full coverage for comp and collision and higher limits to where you're properly insured for $36 a month. That's state minimum. You're not covered properly. So if something happens, they can come after you and your assets, and it's a long legal battle that nobody wants to mess with.
Oh my gosh.
So if you find a good rate, take it to your agent, have them look it over, tell you exactly what's going on. I actually just did this with another client. Make sure they run the reports too before you just go with that quote.
What does that mean? Run the reports.
So check your tickets and your claim record. So if you get a quote, like we do as agents, we get a quote. So Jill, let's say I'm doing your quote right now. I get to it and I just tell you that first quote that pops up. That's going to change after I hit run report. So it's another button that needs to be pressed by the agent. So you're going to get all excited and say, $36 a month. Yes, I can do this. And then you go to purchase it. You put all your information in, and then you get to the final sell. And it's like, wait, why did it go from this amount to, $40 more or whatever? So always go to the very end before you finalize anything, before you sign anything. I always run reports before I even contact the client back or the potential client back before I give them any numbers, because I made that mistake once and I will never do it again.
We all learn from those, don't we?
We all learn from those. So by working with an agent, you can actually look with many different companies at once, and all you have to do is make one phone call. So instead of calling every single agent or agency in Southern Illinois trying to find the best rate, you just call once, give your information once, and then your agent will get back with you in a day or two, because we have so many different companies to look for or to look through. We have to put your information into each one to see which best rate comes back at the best coverage for you. Now, you can also be overinsured. So if you have way too much insurance, why pay for it?
Right.
Exactly.
So just have your agent, and they'll ask you personal questions like, do you own your home outright? What's your home value at? You want to learn what those assets are and go over everything, because if you have $1 million coverage, but you really don't need $1 million coverage, like, I'm not going to make you pay for that, and I'm going to give you advice. And then it's your decision as to what you want to do.
Yeah.
So
Can I ask you something? Because there's a difference between owning your vehicle and leasing a vehicle. So is there a difference between your insurance with that too?
So we actually put it in, if you own your vehicle outright, we'll put it in that you own it outright. And that's a little bit of a discount, not much, but they look at it as, okay, we don't have to worry about messing with the lien holder or anything like that. If you bought your vehicle and still making payments, then we list that as lien holder, or if you have a lease out on it, we put a lease. Now, with the lease, I know that there's mileage limits and all of that, so that'll all be taken into consideration when it's putting into the rater.
Okay.
So
Wow.
That's good to know too.
It's good to know. It's almost like working with an agent. It's like working with like a tailor. They're like tailoring this suit to fit exactly what you need, versus almost online's like, can be
It's a guessing
too
game.
baggy or too,
too tight.
Exactly.
Getting something off the rack
And
versus tailoring.
I think when you're spending money on insurance, you want it to be completely tailored to what your needs are. So
Yes.
that's why it's important.
Yes, it is.
So when you make a payment on your insurance, you can make a big bulk payment once a year annually, or you can pay it monthly. But the monthly charges are always more expensive in my mind, or every time I've encountered that. So why would that be?
So you do get a discount depending on the policy. They're set up as 6-month or 12-month policies. Like Pekin you can choose either 6-month or 12-month. Progressive is only 6-month for an auto insurance. So if you pay in full, you actually get a discount because there's less paperwork, there's less processing. You're less likely to just buy 1 month of insurance and then cancel because let's say you got a no insurance speeding ticket or something. So we encountered that a lot, to where they're like, I just need insurance now for court, and then they'll pay 1 month and then just cancel. So that is not smart, by the way. Don't do that. So you do get a discount for paying in full for the full policy. Now, again, when you have a family, when you're living paycheck to paycheck, you can't always afford that. So there is the option to pay monthly. There's different ways to set it up. Paying with the checking account information is actually the cheapest option, because if you pay with your debit or credit card, those expire. So it's more paperwork when that expires to put the new information into the system. So there's an extra fee added on for that for most companies.
So it's better to go with your
Checking account information.
That's good to know too. Well, cool. Wow. I feel so much more enlightened about auto insurance.
Yes.
So thank you so much for being here. I know we have a lot more to cover because you specialize in homeowners insurance too. So maybe another episode we'll have back on and we'll dive deep into that. But thank you, Lara, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Very educational. It's important. Yeah.
I want to ask you one more question. If you were to leave here giving any piece of advice as an agent about auto insurance to our listeners, what would it be?
I would highly suggest grabbing your, what we call the declaration page, which is the page that has all your coverage limits on it. It's not the one that just shows your premium amount. It's the one that breaks down your property damage, your bodily injury, your medical, everything. Look that over. If you have state minimum coverage, which is $25,000, $50,000 on bodily injury, and $20,000 to $25,000 on property damage, call your agent. See what it would be to increase that. Go over what your lifestyle is like and your home, whether you rent or own, and all of that, and see what it would cost to increase it. So your agent should be your best friend when it comes to all of this, and don't think that you're going to bother them. We're here to help you. So go over that, make sure you're properly covered. It may cost a little bit more to increase those limits, but it's worth it in case you're in that accident.
For sure, definitely.
Great.
Well, thank you so much again. It's been a pleasure. All right. We'll see you next week.
So Jill, where do we go from here?
Be sure to check out our show notes for this episode, and also be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our newsletter. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.